say when it's amazing, some of the many opera books that I have, sometimes if they're using the Russian pronunciations, you find Onegin under Y or it's under any place, but not, I'm using what the Met is using, which is the usual spelling with an E and an O, and not these other things. And I think the fact that the Alexander Pushkin's poem, Eugene Onegin, was first performed in Moscow in 1881 and then at La Scala in Italy in 1900, but not to New York City until 1920. And we want to talk a little bit about, I think, Tchaikovsky, which is so important in the sense that this is, uh, he had this music. Well,
Can't listen to both.
I don't want to get out of order here, but
The phone is
let's
on.
say first that he was born in northeastern Russia in April of 1840. His actual dates, if you want the dates, he was 1840 and he passed in 1893. And he died in St. Petersburg in October, as I say, of 1893, which became, he loved it. It became his real home. And he was a member of, for those of you that know a lot about Russian music, of Anton Rubinstein's first graduating class. That was in 1866. And upon graduation, he was hired to teach harmony in Moscow. But he was very fortunate because he had a wealthy patroness. So he was able to stop teaching and just to devote himself to composing. And he became Russia's only really professional full-time composer. As he said, and I love this is a quote, I sit down to work each morning at 9 a.m. to compose, unquote. I love that. He was very adept in foreign languages. He traveled frequently all over Western Europe. He even was in America in 1891 on a tour. And he was very clear about writing opera vis-a-vis writing more straight orchestral music. He said, one must keep the stage in mind. The theater requires not just melodies and harmonies, but it has action. And then he also says, one must not abuse the patience of the opera audience. I love that. Maybe some other people should take note of that on some of our productions and what have you. But anyway, it really, and he had a clear understanding that the stage had sets and it had color and it had all these other elements that you don't when you're doing a straight symphony and you have the orchestra in the pit. So he was very clear about things they had to be simple, but he wanted color. He wanted all of that to be involved in that. Now, those of you who know me well, you know that I always find opera very true to life, and that I think it explains all the thoughts, the feelings, and all the emotions we don't have words for. And certainly this is true, I think, of Eugene Onegin. It's an opera about young love, but its characters are true to life and the things that happen in life. Things that sometimes we go into a situation and you don't mean something to happen, and it does. And the effects of that can be disastrous. And in this case, we have a mixture of emotions and actions of young love and old love, which can cause some unexpected results, and including death. So I think it's just a very, I don't know what to say other than that. That's a very, very special uh, opera. Let's talk. I'd like to give you kind of a summary first before I quote from the libretto, but let's list our characters. We're in St. Petersburg. The setting is about 18th century late. We're in a country, as I say, a state in St. Petersburg. And we're at the home of Madame Larina, who owns the estate. She's a mezzo. She has two daughters, Tatiana, the soprano, and Olga, her daughter, who's a contralto. And she's engaged to the 19-year-old Lenski. Uh, and see, again, young love here. And then we have Eugene Onegin, who's a friend of Lenski's, and he's a baritone. And then it's not in the original Pushkin story, But Tchaikovsky created the role in Act Three for a Russian bass, a French Gremlin. Has a very important part. When I give you the synopsis, you'll see that, but has a wonderful aria in which he talks about here, everything else has been young love, as I say, which results in death. But in this case, he talks about that old love and what that means and what it's done to him in his life. And there are all these nuances. I think, as I say, this opera to me is in really a class by itself. And just to give you first a brief, going to say a brief summary of the plot. If we take Act One, has three scenes, and we have a short prelude, and there are various duets and quartets and Madame La Reina and the her daughter's nurse. They are conversing. The two sisters are conversing. All this is going on. Lenski appears, of course, engaged to Olga, and he brings his friend Onegin, who happens to be a young, I guess the one libretto calls him a St. Petersburg dandy, but he's recently inherited his uncle's country estate. And he doesn't really even, he's bored with the whole situation. But the interesting thing is as they come in and all of that, and there have been some very wonderfully famous, this opera has been a vehicle for so many wonderful sopranos and baritones and tenors, although the tenors, say, as you will see in this brief summary, is not around too long. But anyway, when we are finally, we go through this scene with this nice going on with the men and women, and of course, Lenski's thrilled to see Olga and all of that. And the second scene is we are in Tatiana's bedroom. Now, she has been, when we first meet her in the first scene, she's been reading a book, and her mother says, you know, life really isn't like some of these romances and everything you're reading. And it's quite harsh in many ways. But that isn't the way she is. She's very naive and she's very romantic. And then when we have the second scene of Act One, we're in her bedroom, and it's called the letter scene. And Tchaikovsky wrote it first, before he wrote the rest of the opera. And she's fallen in love with Onegin. So she sits down to write him a letter. And as she's writing, the orchestra is conveying sort of how naive she is and her very romantic mood. And when she asks herself, as she's writing this, could she ever love another? And she answers very strongly, never. She could never love anyone else. And in reality, that remains true to her, regardless as we go through what her life is. When dawn comes, she finishes the letter and she gives it to her niece and says it should be delivered to Onegin. In the third scene of Act One, it's usually, and I loved this as a matter, it was just be a sort of a garden with a plain bench. And it opens, again, the contrast. We have first a servant girls chorus. So you have a chorus. And then Tatiana enters and goes to the bench and sees Onegin coming and now thinks, oh my God, what have I done? I wrote him that letter. I told him this. What is he going to say? And when he appears, and I'll read you the libretto when I get through with the general overall of the opera, his reply is not cold. It's not cruel. It includes a lot of kindness and understanding. Mm. And I think also, and it's evident in not only the music, but also in his words. And what he says to her, though, at the end, and I'm putting it very slangily, but like, watch it. You know, if you send something like this, pouring your heart out to another man, you could be in trouble on this. Everyone is not going to appreciate what a wonderful person you are and what your background is and everything else, and will take advantage of you. And so, of course, that scene ends with where they get up from the bench and she unhappily takes his arm as he escorts her out. And that's usually the way the scene ends. When we go to Act Two, we are the following winter, and it's Tatiana's name day. It's being celebrated. And again, we're once more at Madame Laurina's home estate. So there's all kinds of festivities.
Yep.
And Onegin is only there because Lenski insists that he come. He wants him to come with him. And the minute he gets there, Onegin, he thinks, "Ugh, why did I do this? I mean, this is so boring. I can't stand it." And so he thinks it's all your fault, Lenski. So I'm going to revenge you a little bit. And he begins to flirt with Olga. And he dances with her, he flirts with her, and Lenski gets very angry. And the two men exchange words. And Lenski, and the anger and everything that happens, challenges Onegin to a duel and publicly insults Olga. And at the end, Onegin, challenging him to a duel, he's not putting up with that, so he accepts that. And at the end, the two men actually have to be separated, usually in most productions, with the anger that's going on there. But the point being, things, Lenski getting out of control over this, Onegin doing something just because he's bored. And he thinks, you know what, I'll take care of Lenski, but not having any idea that it's just going to be the ramifications of what's going to happen. And when we go to the second scene of this act, it's brief. It's the duel scene. It's really all the tenors musically, his pouring his heart out and everything. Onegin even overslept and he arrives late, and he's horrified with this whole idea that they're having this stupid duel. But his first shot kills Lenski. So that's the end of Lenski, if you like. Now, when we go to the final act, more than, I think about 4 years have passed since Lenski's death, and Onegin has been traveling everywhere, and he's trying to be distracted from what has happened. I mean, he certainly, this is not he wanted, he didn't want that and all the rest of it. He's returned, he's not old, he's maybe 26 at this point. He's just returned to St. Petersburg and he's attending a ball, but he finds that his existence is a more pointless, more empty than ever. Now, in older characters, I say that as Tchaikovsky's creation, Prince Gremin greets him and they know each other. And in this great Russian bass aria, he tells Onegin, "Love has no age." And I will read that to you when we go into the more details of the thing. And Onegin realizes that this gorgeous creature who he's come in with is none other than that shy Tatiana that he rejected in Act One. And I think it's a great shock. He realizes he loves her. And the final scene of the opera, and the second scene of Act Three, where several days later, we're in a room of Prince Gremin's home, and Onegin has been sending passionate letters to Tatiana, who admits that they've moved her and they've distressed her. And when Onegin arrives, she reminds him of the past and how he had rejected her, and says, is he interested in her now because she's wealthy, because she's the wife of a famous person, and he'll enjoy having an affair with someone like that. And even though he assures her, no, that he realizes he loves her and wonders why he let her go originally and everything, and tells her that the thing to do is, why don't, just let's elope. We can go away. We can have a life together. In the final scene, she finally admits that, yes, I loved you. I still love you. But I'm not going to run away, and I'm going to remain true to my husband. And as she leaves the room, and she does, the opera ends with Onegin all alone. So you have all those things going on through the opera itself. And I want to read you, like in the beginning, particularly this business of when Onegin comes in after she sent the letter, and I hope I can find this on the. I have all these various things, and she's Tatiana. She looks at, she sees him coming. This is Act One. Remember Scene 3, and she said, "Oh dear God, what must he have thought? What will he say? Why did I obey my aching heart? And I lacked all self-control. How could I have written that letter? Indeed, my heart tells me now he'll only laugh at me. Oh my God," she says, "how miserable I am." And the footsteps are, oh, it is he. He's here. But he says to her, uh, believe me, and because, I'll be very honest with you. And when he says to her, in other words, you were very honest with me, and I will be with you. And he says, in effect, that marriage, like for us, would be a torment. You'd not be happy. I eventually would get bored and things would be terrible. And no matter how much I loved you originally, habit would kill that love. Judge what a thorny bed of roses Haman would prepare for us. And perhaps to be endured at length, one cannot return to dreams of youth. And he says, I cannot renew my soul. I love you with a brother's love. A brother's love. He emphasizes that. Or maybe more than that. Perhaps maybe more than that. But listen to me without getting angry. More than once will a girl exchange one passing fancy for another, but learn to control your feelings. Not everyone will understand you as I do, and inexperience can lead to disaster. So again, I think whatever one wants to think negatively about him, he does his best with that. And he says everything. And again, he's the one that too late realizes his life is not being just an empty shell in a certain way. And I think even when you get, if I can find this nicely, what Prince says when he's talking about, explains to Onegin how he feels about her and what a difference it has made in his life. And when he says, love is no respecter of age. It transports, bless alike those in the bloom of youth, yet unacquainted with the world, and the gray-headed warrior, tempered by experience. Onegin, I shan't disguise the fact that I love Tatiana to distraction. My life was slipping drearily away. She appeared and brightened it like a ray of sunshine in a stormy night. And she brought me life and youth. Yes, youth and happiness. And I think, again, this total swing of emotions that you have in this opera, musically expressed so marvelously, is a unique. I wish they would do it. I mean, it's too bad. We're lucky that they're doing the number of performances they're doing at the Met and all the rest of it. But I mean, I think still, it's the kind of thing that you want to treasure these things, but it's such to me, an exploration in opera of what life can be. And if you think of one's own life, of the things that could have happened or didn't happen or almost happened, or the things you'd like to take back, that if you had only thought, if I had known this was going to happen, I wouldn't have done that. But you don't, and you do. And I think there's the wonderful thing. I don't know if you've been anything watching Downton Abbey excerpts from on old, but the Maggie Smith role, the one of the grandmother, when she finds out that one of her granddaughters has the affair that she has had, and that it is true, she stops. She says, like the equivalent is, "Oh, really? I mean, that's really, oh, that's terrible." Well, I can't dwell on what I wish had happened. If this is the reality of what happened, okay, we have to deal with this and let's fix this. And I think again, there are these things that are able to be expressed sometimes in music or in the creative arts in a way that they're not expressed in other forms. And I should ask too, I've been droning on, so is there anybody have any questions that I might be answer or might not be able to answer, but would be happy to try if you have any questions?
Albert?
No.
Huh?
No? All right. As I say, I hope you'll all have the opportunity to see the opera, or as I say, they are doing performances of it, but I hope that, um, and there are some wonderful recordings of it. Um, and, I mean, I think certainly CDs I know are very old-fashioned, but you can at least listen to some of the music, and because the music is so incredible. And you think about poor Tchaikovsky, look at that. I mean, only to have written, he wrote 10 operas, but to think that only two of them have anything in our repertoire at all. And how often is Queen of Spades done? Rarely. So I mean, it's basically Eugene Onegin. So I think that's too bad too. Uh, but anyway, if anyone have any other questions or anything else? No questions?
I have just a thought. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I want to say I always appreciate the way you get me to pay a little more attention to the words because when you go to an opera, there's so much going on
Yeah.
that sometimes the words, I mean, to follow the story, yes. So I always appreciate that about what you do.
Thank you.
And you are right. There are so many like little gems in here, like the mother and the servant woman as they're kind of talking about their marriage choices. I mean, that's another kind of a highlight for people
Yeah.
to look forward to. Um, so, and just in case it got cut off in the recording, Munson had their auditorium busy on May 2nd. So Munson is doing this HD, which won't be live in Utica on May 9th.
Right.
And so I just wanted to make sure that got in.
Yeah, I said that at the very beginning because I think that's very important
Yeah,
to
I wasn't sure it was
right.
recorded though.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, because that's very important to get that in and to do it as best they can with that. And because you want to take advantage of these opportunities, whether or not the production, I mean, one of the things that, as everyone knows, I mean, an HD broadcast, I'm very grateful that we're able to do these Zoom programs and things like this because if you don't know anything, you don't hear a note of the music. You go with the HD and you're busy looking at what you're seeing. Oh, look at that. And then you're trying to follow the words and everything else. And ugh, I mean, it's bad enough that you're not in the opera, a big opera house, being able to choose what you want to look at. And don't forget the production is designed for being in a big opera house and not for you to be watching elements of it close up. But I think that's that the more prepared you are, um, the more you'll be able to hear the music and to maybe step back a little bit and realize what has been. And these things are in our opera is amazing. I mean, we really, as I said in the beginning, it expresses all these emotions we don't have words for. And yet, when you hear that music, I believe it. I know that that's exactly what it's expressing and what I can't do with words. And so, anyway, I mean, gosh, I hope that people will, take advantage of that. And if you're going to be in the city by any chance, you have a chance to jump into the Met because they're doing performances until the 16th.
Mm.
So that would be great too. Or you might be able to get up to Munson, and at least if you can't see, the HD at Foothills, maybe you can get up there to see it at Munson on the 9th.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. So I think we're running out of time, Mary Margaret, are we not?
We're getting very close, Abby, but that was
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you
No.
so much.
Well,
Thank
you're-
you, Abby.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, my pleasure. And I'm glad, and I look forward. Oh, we have for those of you that are members of the guild and on the board, we have a meeting tomorrow. Isn't that exciting?
Yes.
We'll see each
Yep.
other. Yeah.
5:30 tomorrow night.
Thrilling.
Okay, Abby.
Absolutely.
Okay, many hugs.
Glad
Okay.
to see you.
Hugs to you all. Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take
Thank you
care,
all.
hon.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. All right.
Bye.